Beautiful afternoon, everyone. It is a Tuesday today. I had to remind myself that today it is a Tuesday today. We are on the 16th day of June, which is 2020. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this fresh new show that I'm doing on Tuesdays. It's called Hardship Chat. I usually do Hardship Chat on Twitter with lots of questions. I'm still doing that now, but I want to take that chat onto another level by inviting guests to join the live dialogue where I'll be having with just brilliant, epic people. Today, I have a brilliant human that I had the honor of connecting on Twitter, and we got talking. And I said, hey, you need to come and share your story on a new show. So let's bring her on. Cathy Pastor, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Thank you for having me on the show. This is really exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how you are based in New York? How is the situation in New York right now?
Actually, it's improving. Last week, after with a protest that in some areas turned into riots, everything was boarded up. I'm actually back physically in the office, so I saw like a lot of the city before it was pretty quiet, and then it was boarded up, and it just really seemed kind of like a zombie land, if you will. So
Right.
it was, but I think my biggest hurdle was just trying to find lunch in the daytime. So it hasn't really been too bad because that's if I even remember to get out to get lunch. So, but one
Right.
of the good things is with everything closed down, it helps my credit card because I'm not shopping as much as I typically would. So we'll be back to that soon now.
Isn't that a good thing though? Like during this pandemic, during this shutdown, right? I have noticed that I have been saving more money where I've not been eating out a lot.
Yeah,
I've seen drastic changes, even in my health, not
yeah.
eating out. So that's a good thing.
Yes, agreed. I try to find a silver lining in everything, and I think that's not to joke too much about it, but that has been one of them for me, saving money and actually eating better. I snack
Right.
better at home than I do, like my remote life, than I do at the office. We have lots of snacks around, so
Yeah.
cleaner eating is actually a little messier, if you will.
All right. So before we dive into our conversation, I want to take a moment to acknowledge our viewers. Viewers, if wherever that you're viewing from, we are live right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. Please say a hello. Type in your name, the city, the country that you are tuning in from, and your favorite flavor of ice cream. I have to do ice cream. I didn't know what to think of. So type in over there. And of course, if you're viewing, if you're new to the channel, this is a new show that I'm doing every Tuesday's Hardship Chat. We'll be talking about the now culture, the now leading, the now of workplace by people, by real people through their lived experiences. Please do subscribe, follow on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. It's the same name, Mila Deschamps, Miladechanti. All right, now that I've got that out of the way, Cathy, when we connected, it was such an impactful conversation I had with you. I connected with you on a very heart level. I love your heart, I love your mind, and your story is such an impactful story, and that's why the title was swimming through unsettled water, and that's so fitting. But I want to hear your thoughts, your story on who is Cathy and how did your journey start?
Okay, fair enough. So actually, I work in facilities management. I work at a client site, and when I started actually working in facilities, I started working as a receptionist at a hedge fund, and I just figured every day I do my job, I just want to do the best to my abilities. So if I'm responsible for it, I'm going to do the most amazing job with it that anyone's ever seen. So regardless of how small it was. And one day the facilities manager came to me and said, I'm hiring for an assistant facilities manager. I'd really like for you to apply for the job. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know anything about facilities. And she said, you know what, I think you're great for it. I'll train you. And she did, and it worked out great. And fast forward to today, I love working in facilities. It's not a job for everyone, and there are not too many, you don't see too many women in my position, but I just figure, as long as I have an open line of communication with everybody around me, and I just try to study and really understand every part of my job, like as far as like how a building runs. And I am surrounded by a lot of people that are willing to just kind of, show me what's going on and communicate that stuff to me. So I actually really enjoy what I do. It's not the easiest job in the world, and a lot of it is just dealing with problems, and nobody knows your name until they have an issue and they come looking for you. So I really did enjoy, I always enjoy doing this work. So yeah, I started working out as a receptionist, started working in facilities, and I just decided that this is what I really just wanted to do going forward. And while I was working at the hedge fund, I learned a lot, to the point where the people that I reported to just kind of every day, like it was a new thing, like, okay, this is now your responsibility. And I said, okay, no problem. And I just, again, just tried to use different applications and use different methods to just kind of really make my work efficient. And I guess, I was handling it, holding everything down. And to the point where the people that I reported to just started to do a lot less. And it turned into people, when, the other names that they knew where they had to come to for these issues, they realized, hey, Cathy gets it done. So I guess, unfortunately, it turned into people feeling that I was overstepping my boundaries. And they just figured, well, you report to me. Why are people coming to you? When we found that people were going to them and things weren't getting done. So they were like, oh, okay, well, Cathy gets stuff done, so let's loop her in. And I would just jump on it and use my resources and really just try to, take care of whatever issues that they had. So it might have been, and as far as facilities is concerned, it's heating and cooling, and or it's this is broken, or just maintain it, this is falling apart, let's get this done. Or it might have been reshuffling a whole office, so moves throughout the office, which are always going on in large corporations. So I was always on top of that stuff. And I guess some people just didn't like when people were just kind of skipping a level and coming straight to me, even though ultimately it should have ended up on my desk. But that actually turned into me actually losing my job because they felt that I was overstepping. So when I was originally addressed with it about losing my position there, I was told that my position was eliminated. And I accepted that because it didn't exist when I started it at that particular company. So I accepted it, and then I found out that the following business day my replacement started. So, but I found out later also that they just could not handle, a lot of people, like, they just couldn't handle the job. So that person also did not last very long, and I was asked to return, but by then I already found something else. So I just moved on. But and that's what I figured I had to keep doing, is just keep moving on. And I do appreciate everything that I learned from my first position. And as I moved on, I kind of moved into a different area of the facilities world. So it was more along the lines of operations. And I was kind of working with so now I was working with another management company covering another client. And I was kind of involved in the operations of the whole entire portfolio. So through all of the facilities managers throughout the country, I learned a lot. I gained a lot of recognition from the manager for the entire account. So it was a really, really rewarding experience. And while I was looking for that job, like while I was working there, actually when I had originally applied for that job, I had applied for another one. So, and it's actually with the firm that I'm with now. So I think it was a year and a half into the job, the firm that I'm with now actually contacted me, and they said, "Oh, we saw your resume and we'd like you to interview for this job." And at the time, I wasn't even looking. So I said, "Okay." And I had a quick phone interview, and I was so confused because I hadn't been looking for work at the time. So then when I looked into it, like, wow, I applied for this job 1.5 years ago. So I went on the interview. It was actually right across the street from where I was working at the time. And it turned out that it was more along the lines of what I had been looking for originally. So everything worked out and I accepted that job. So the funny thing was, now I was thinking, well, I didn't leave. I wasn't looking for a new job. I wasn't upset or unhappy. So I decided to create a story about why I was leaving. And I didn't want to burn down bridges or anything. But again, I was happy doing what I was doing. So I created a story, and I figured, okay, I'm going to come in. I'm going to tell them this story. I ran into somebody else from my old job, and they had a position. And I didn't really think much of it, but I gave them my resume. I applied, and I was going to, just see what happened. And they offered me the job. So I had this great story. I come in and I find out that my boss was resigning. So it made it a lot easier to submit my own resignation. So, but then the people that I worked with when I resigned, they thought that I was leaving because my manager was leaving. So they thought that my job was eliminated for no good reason. But I told them actually it was really great timing. So I ended up working at another firm and at a client site. So this particular job, now I come into it, and I had a few other offers. I come into this particular job, and now I'm working on the finance side of things. So I wanted to be more in the field, working with the trades, working on projects, maintenance and that kind of stuff. But now they figured, well, I studied finance, and I handled a lot of that on my previous account, and it turned out that they needed a lot of help cleaning up their finance work and their invoicing and just like getting vendors paid. So between the time that I accepted this role and the time that I started, they completely changed my role. So I was not too excited about that, but I got a lot of stuff cleaned up. I still learned a lot. So I was completely responsible for pretty much all of the money that went through, with us as the vendor, and all of the sub vendors, all of the work that happens with a client. So that was actually pretty rewarding. I did learn a lot, and I mean, it was great to be able to be on top of that stuff and manage in a different kind of.
Right.
So
I
yeah.
want to take a moment, and we have a question for you from let's see, it's from LinkedIn. It's Abby, aka Diversity and Inclusion Business Manager. Abby asks, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, is it she or he? Sorry, I am confusing myself with the gender. Abby. The question is, what are the top 3 things you love about facilities and potential challenges?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. What I love about facilities is no 2 days are the same. It's always something like you can't expect for a slow day. So I feel like you just have to always be on top of your game. And I feel like I'm always learning something new. So there's nothing to ever really expect. I might walk in and it might be quiet. I'll walk through a floor, and then, this has literally happened where I'm walking through one of my floors and everything is great. And then I hit another floor and it's literally raining inside of one of the conference rooms. So when there's about 20 more floors above me. So just being able to be the person to get that stuff resolved, and, just kind of having lots of challenges throughout the day, every day, and being the person getting it taken care of is one of the things that I actually absolutely love about facilities. Being the do it person, the get it done person. But potential challenges, there's always some type of challenge. So, you name it. like Amazon, there are challenges from A to Z. So pick one.
Yeah. So, Abby, I hope that answers your question. I want to take this time to touch on a few things that you mentioned, Cathy. You mentioned,
Mhm.
the first point that you mentioned about, how people felt that you were overstepping uh,
Mhm.
them, right? Because people were coming straight to you.
Mhm.
Um, that's a form of a very, I feel that that's a toxic way of treating other people, right? It's
Mhm.
in an environment where people want things to be done, they often seek the person who will get things done, right? And
Yes.
then there's always too much of layers within corporations or even organizations, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people experience this and they share this as well. It's like to get the information, they need to go through the chain of command, go through the manager, then the manager will have pushbacks, and then if it gets approved, it goes through the other layer of manager, and then if there's pushback, you can't get information. There's so
Mhm.
much of gatekeeping that happens within organizations that prevents things from getting done.
Yeah.
So the only option for other people is to like just say, no, I
Mhm.
am not going to go through you. I'm just going to go straight to the person. It's like cutting off the middleman, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
And 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 then it's how did you deal with people who were coming to you or saying that, hey, you're overstepping your boundaries, you're stepping on my toe, because that's a form of bullying, because
Mhm.
it's verbal abuse without even saying, hey, without even being happy that it is getting things done, right? Like, I
Correct.
want to hear from you. How did you feel? How did you overcome those unsettling waters, right?
Mhm.
Because it's like people creating, it's like a calm river, but people it keep on throwing stones to
Yeah.
make the waves. Okay, so I want to hear from you. How did you navigate all of those?
You're absolutely right. There a lot of times there's depending on the size of the project or the request, there
Mhm.
are going to be some like different steps that they need to go through. So we always want to make sure that those steps are taken. Sometimes a few steps can be skipped depending on the profile level of the requester. But yeah, just making sure that everybody has everything covered. You know, especially for me, I don't. Again, I never wanted to step on anyone's toes, but also I don't want to fail. So again, just covering yourself and making sure that all of those check boxes are checked off. And I have been there where I did have somebody come by and just want to skip some levels, but for the most part, if I will come through and just say, well, this and that needs to be done before we can move forward, or I need these answers. So sometimes there's like some answers in the scope that I need to be confirmed before we can move forward, because if I don't know, I can't proceed. Like I need this, and that from you before I can move forward. So I think just open lines of communication really do help. And it helps when you know what you're talking about. And I would always just consult with the people that I also need to help me deliver on these requests, and like make sure that they're okay and they're set before we can move forward, even if I do need to ask a favor and skip a few steps. But yeah, just always communicating, because I think that's where a lot of people seem to fail, just not knowing the right questions to ask, or not asking questions at all, because I feel like that is more reassuring to the requester, that you're engaged, you're always engaged. So I mean, it's doesn't always help, or it doesn't always buy me some time, but it does make them a little more understanding of what we need before we can move forward with what they're asking for.
You mentioned that asking the right questions, and like a lot of women, especially being a woman, right, in the facilities line, like you said, there's not many women in this area. It's a very male-dominated industry, isn't it?
Mhm.
And being a woman can be very um overwhelming in this area. Can be overwhelming because you're surrounded by men. And you mentioned about asking all the right questions. How did you find yourself? What kind of tools, what kind of resources, what kind of armor? I say armor. It's not armor, not as to like put on a mask. Armor as in because every situation that we go into, we build a new layer of armor. How do we respond? How do we react? How do we reflect? So I want to understand what kind of resources, tools did you have, and what kind of armor did you acquire, attain from being in the facilities area?
Well, obviously, reading lots of studies on management, like facilities management. There's a lot out there as far as social networking. So I do follow a lot of those, like on LinkedIn and even on Twitter, just finding out what's going on with other companies or other people in the field. Even within my company, we have lots of networking groups. So there's one women's networking group that is fantastic. So we just kind of exchange a lot of ideas and some of the hurdles that we have and how we address them. And just in-house, like working with all of my trades. So every time I have a project, if there's a part of it that I don't understand, like first, like there's always a walkthrough of the next project. So I just contact all of my trades, everyone, my carpenters, my electricians, the cleaners, everyone, so that we can all see everything together. And if there's any questions that may come up, maybe I don't know the question to ask, or there might be something that my electrician might be aware of with the space that he'll ask. So, and then we just kind of touch base and just review it again. And if there are any questions that we might have missed, just following up with the requester on it. But yeah, it's just, and just keeping the communication open, trusting the people that I have to work with and allowing them to trust me. So whatever they need from me, they always know that they can come back to me. And it's just kind of funny because sometimes, I have these big guys, carpenters and electricians, and they say, oh, well, they're coming to me on the side saying, like, we need this to get done right away. And I'm like, okay, well, they haven't even explained to me how they're gonna, if they approve how much this is gonna cost. So it's funny because they know that they can trust me, and I know that I can trust them. So we're always just keeping the lines of communication open and being very honest with each other. And if it's going to take a longer time than anticipated, because everything needs to be done by tomorrow, but sometimes things cannot be done by tomorrow. So it's just, using whatever resources I can, whether it's picking up a book on, the latest, or, reading any articles, or seeing what some of our competitors are doing and what they're reporting on, and just grabbing whatever resources I can.
Those are really great insights that you share. And what would you share with women or just people out there who do not have the resources, who do not have the tools? Because on one hand, environments can be really favorable, or environments can be unfavorable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Environments that are favorable, where they'll have resources, tools, and access, and also mentors and sponsors to really get you from where you are to where you want to go. And then how about in environments that are unfavorable, where women are treated as subhumans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or POCs are treated as subhumans in what environment? How would they navigate this unsettling water?
That's a fantastic question, and that just brings us right into the reason why I chose this topic. So where I recently started working, I found that a lot of people the people that were supposed to be my peers, the one that I was supposed to work alongside with, nobody was willing to show me the ropes or train me on anything on the new systems that I had to use that I was not familiar with. So I found that I really had to just kind of figure things out for myself, like how things work in this particular environment. Because again, in the facilities world, not everything can just go by a template. Like what worked on the last account is not always necessarily going to work here. So again, I just kind of had to work with all of the trades that now reported to me, and just trust them, let them see that I knew what I was talking about, because being a woman, and especially being a, not to get too much into race, but to be, being a brown woman, and coming into this field, I felt like, there were going to be people that would just prejudge me and underestimate me. And I figured, you know what, let them underestimate me and they can be surprised later. But I worked with all of the trades, and it was funny because my peers were all of the ones that underestimated me, but it was the people that reported to me, so all of the trades, the ones that I had to manage now, that absolutely did not. And I guess it was one of the things was just reaching out to them and understanding what they do, what their function is, going for walkthroughs with them and the building. This is what I look for. What do you look for? What do you see? Just taking moments like to work with every one of them so that they understood that I was serious about being here. I want to understand what their day-to-day is like, because I need them to be successful as well. And I figured my success was the client's success. So if they weren't going to help me get there, then I was going to have to work with the people that will help me get there.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really powerful. Now, you mentioned, find the people who will help you get there. And
Mm-hmm.
how can one find people who will help them get there? Because sometimes in environments, we see this everywhere. We see this at the workplace. We see this in different communities. We see this even on LinkedIn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finding the people who will help you get there. And sometimes when we are also seduced by statuses, right? Labels, when we are all, it's inherently present in each of us unless we consciously eliminate that. We're so seduced by those labels and titles that we only are drawn to those people with titles, and then we want to help those people become even more successful.
Mm-hmm.
Neglecting those who are trying to find success. So for people who are struggling, who are drowning, where they don't even know how to swim, how can we create those favorable environments?
So that's another fantastic question. So for me, in my own personal experience, I didn't have too many. So let me just go back a little. When I came into this account, this was the first time that this company was outsourcing, and this was a new client for us. So that was actually one of the appeals to me. But I had no idea how crazy it was going to be when I got here. So I really just kind of had to fend for myself. And I figured one of the things that I did was, uh, the people that were trying to make my work difficult, I figured, you know what, I'm just going to stop for a second. And I thought about it, and I realized, okay, well, perhaps they might be threatened by my presence here. So I figured, well, I know what they're doing. I'm not going to let them know, but I know that they're being difficult on purpose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just continue being myself, be cheerful, come into work, good morning, everybody, and show them that I'm here. I'm good at my job. You want me here. You need me here because my success is your success. And also just kind of let them, see me as a human being. Sometimes people just kind of, they don't see those things and they're just like, okay, well, we're all fighting for survival here. But again, if you just let me do my job, then your job will be a lot easier too. So, because that's what I'm here for. So it did work with many of the people that I had to work with, many of the people that were creating the obstacles, just letting them realize that I'm just another person. I'm just a human being, just trying to be here, trying to do my job and just get stuff done. And honestly, being somebody, working at a client site, and honestly, working in facilities, the individual that's getting stuff done doesn't always get recognition for it. And it's fine. I understand that, as long as you understand that working in this world, I don't always need a pat on the shoulder every time and a good job. But as long as people realize this stuff is getting done and my presence here has really contributed to that, I felt like it really did make a big impact with the people that were previously being difficult. And as far as, so, that's one of the things that I did on site. And then just working, reaching out to people, again, just going back to networking groups, and even going to some of my managers and letting them know that, they're being difficult. They're just doing this on purpose. I want you to know that this is happening, and I want you to know that for now, I can handle it. If it becomes overwhelming, I'm going to come back to you. And but I just wanted to, letting those people know, the people that are in charge, putting that on their radar. And for some, it might be a scary thing to do, just because people might be fearful of somebody just kind of retaliating and saying, well, okay, well, you got me in trouble, or I had this situation because you said something. But I mean, we have to remember we're all adults, and we all, we're all here for the same reason. We're all just trying to get stuff done. We have a job to do, and just kind of reminding them and reminding everybody of that we're all here because we have a job to do. It really, it helped a lot. Not everybody was saw it that way, but I can't just let just one person here and one person there really affect me. It's not going to change who I am, and I feel like a lot of women do kind of let those external sources just kind of change how we see things. But and it's tough. It can be difficult, but we can just. I think the best thing is to focus on the positive people, and the people that will help you be more successful.
Right. Yeah, I have a few questions, follow-up questions, but we have another question from LinkedIn. Abby poses this question. People sometimes don't give compliments to challenging people. Do you believe giving an occasional materialistic compliment is crossing the line?
No, I don't. I can be pretty much a girly girl. So if somebody, just compliments, whether it's my work or my outfit, or whatever it might be, it does help. And I feel like also giving compliments to your colleagues, or when they do a great job on something, really helps. It doesn't just help them, like to give them a boost, but it actually feels good for yourself to do that, and just exchanging compliments, or even reaching out and saying like, oh, that was a really great job you did, can we talk more about that, because I'd like to do that on my
Right.
side too. And yeah, especially with a team, I mean, it's team building, so I feel like it helps with the trust within the team. And yeah, absolutely, compliments do it, they go the extra, like it helps to go the extra mile. So, and you never know, somebody might just be having a bad day. Maybe I joke and say, like, if I start my day with a bad coffee, it's all downhill from there. But then if I come in and somebody just says, just gives me a random compliment, in my day to day, I do a walkthrough, a morning walkthrough, and I walk past a lot of high profile people. And one morning, one of the employees here, which I see her every morning, she sees me and she says, oh, I love your outfit. And you know what? Every time I see you, you always have a big smile to top it off. And just that made me feel good, because it made me feel like, oh, she sees me smiling all the time. And even if I've had a bad morning, I'm not reflecting that. I'm not putting that image out there. And for her to say that to me and say like, oh, you always have a smile, that made me feel good, and it made me feel good about my day to day.
That's excellent. I want to add something to this. When people sometimes don't give compliments to challenging people, I want to challenge the thought process over here. I want to challenge our viewers and listeners that when you say challenging people, it's so nuanced, right? Are people labeled as challenging people because they ask a lot of whys or how, right? Like when you have people in an organization who question you, regardless of they're a manager or a peer or a colleague, right? For them, it is the way of, I want to know answers why we are doing this. I want to know answers as to why you are doing it in this way, why you are pushing back in a very respectful manner. And sometimes managers, or even us, right? When we are questioned, when we operate from a very egocentric perspective, we get challenged. And then in turn, we kind of like deflect it on other people saying they are challenging people. That's one lens to this. Now, the other lens of giving compliments to challenging people as in they are mean. They don't value other people for being humans, right? It is there's so much biases kind of like enveloped within, and no matter what you do, it's not good enough, right? No matter what you say, it's not good enough. Are we referring to those kind of challenging people, or are we referring to another lens of challenging people where they are having a bad day, right? Because usually when people show up at work, we do not know what's going on from their extended lens. Did someone pass away? Grief does not end in 3 day grievance days. Grief does not end in 3 day grievance days. People still grieve within a year for 5 years. When they lose someone, right? Let it be a spouse, let it be a child, let it be a parent, a partner. When they lose someone who they love, that grief impacts them at nuance level, and that impacts them as as to how they show up. And when they show up, they become challenging in ways of they're not performing well, right? Or their productivity is different. So we have to identify which lens are we coming from to identify challenging people. That's one thing I want to leave. And to your point, Kathy, giving a compliment, even though if it's materialistic, it lifts someone else up. Because at the end of the day, regardless of whether it's a mean person or a nice person or kind person, to the truest core, they want to be accepted. They want to be loved. And for a person to be hating and to be challenging, right, from the two other lenses, we have to understand what brought them to this point. I don't know if anyone has, or you, Kathy, you have watched the Harvard experiment on two plants in the same exact environment, same variables, but the only variable that changed was the words used on each plant. Plant A was used positive words like you're loving, you're beautiful, you're doing great. The other plants, despite having the same water, same uh, soil, same sunlight, the only thing that was varying was negative words, saying you're mean, you're bitchy, I hate you, you can't do anything right, and that plant died. So words, even in the form of compliments, has got to come from your heart, even if they are deserving or not deserving. Words have got the power to lift or to kill. But I wanted to put it out there before. Because when we talk about, challenging, when we talk about culture, culture operates not just from a singular lens. It's whatever happens at home, happens at the workplace, happens in the society, happens everywhere. It's created, recreated, reiterated, mirrored, transferred when it's not challenged or questioned. Here comes the voice, right? But I wanted to add that point. Um, I hope that answers your question, Abby. So I want to bring back to the conversation. You mentioned a very, very important aspect. We are all here to do the job, to get the job done. And that's one of the narratives that gets used over and over again in workplaces, dismissing the fact that, dismissing other people's voices when the environment is not variable, or concerns with other people saying that this is too much for us to do. But companies and organizations are using this narrative. We are here to get the job done together under the sheepskin of teamwork, right? But teamwork is only possible when we truly create those and this really conducive environment for everyone. So my question to you is, how can we truly create an environment where we do come together and get the job done and treat each other as humans? I know you've navigated your way through it. I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, one of the things I noticed is that I was surrounded by was there was no sense of teamwork, and I decided, okay, well, I'm going to learn from those mistakes. So within our own team, I just figured, okay, I didn't really have anybody to show me the ropes when I got here. So as we started hiring more people and new people signed on, I just kind of I took it upon myself to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm Cathy, and I'm the FM and, are in New York City. And, let's have some time together. Let's schedule some time so I can just show you a few things that I wish I knew when I first started working there. And it was just little things here and there, like maybe using the application that we have to, or just giving them some links and information, some contact information that they might not have been provided with. Because I feel like oftentimes, like when you're just kind of thrown into an account, people forget about some of the things that you really need to know as far as the culture is concerned, and a lot of the times too, management isn't really fully aware of these little things, these little like quirks that will help you get through your day to day. So since I didn't have that, I always like to reach out and just kind of help people with those things. And because I wish I had that for myself. So I just figured like my colleague's success is our entire team's success. So it's, sometimes you just don't have a lot of time in the day, but just reaching out to them and say, you know what, I'd really like to help you with this. Or maybe, we might be on different time zones. So I'll tell them, you know what, look for a spot on my calendar. Let's talk. Let's just kind of, or if you have any questions, if you're having any issues or any obstacles, let's talk about it. Maybe I experienced it too. I might pull in another colleague and say, okay, introduce them, and she's responsible for covering this site, or and just kind of like pulling people in. Actually, also at the office, like within our group, I started a chat line. It's just an open chat group, and it just allows for everybody to just kind of put a note out there, whether they're just saying good morning when they start their day, or they might share a silly joke just to get people laughing, or just like actual valuable information. Like, this is what I'm doing at this site. And, I thought it might be valuable information for you to know. If there's a networking group, or if I have some type of communication that we receive from the company, like a company-wide message, I just like to share that and make sure that they've seen it too, because sometimes, we just are so busy, we don't get to read every single email, and we might just see something from the company and just kind of dismiss it. And just if I read it, I'll tell them, well, like, this was a really good article here, or there's really good information here, and just kind of pointing out some of the resources. And as far as resources, the company that I work for, they really do offer a lot, whether it might just be learning how to use Outlook better, or Excel, or there might be some stuff for like the actual FM world. So just kind of letting them know that these resources are out there, actually giving them the link, like, here, you might want to check this out, because the people that hired them, they're not the ones actively using this. They're not the ones out there in the field and doing the stuff that we're doing. So they're not thinking about like informing them of this stuff. So just being somebody that's been there and saying, hey, let me just show you the ropes, even when we're not physically in the same office, really, I think really goes it goes a long way. And I've had it where, when there are people that will say, like, when we're having a meeting, like just a touch base meeting, and with the entire team, and they'll point it out, like, oh, Cathy really helped me with that. And actually a few months ago, before COVID, I did not realize I was nominated for, as like within the group, from people that said, it was a question about, is there anybody out there within your team that deserves some recognition? And a colleague nominated me, and this particular colleague doesn't even, like, she physically came to the office one day a week. And I took her for a walkthrough to see what I do. She actually worked more on the analytical side of things, and I took her for a walkthrough with me, and I showed her a few things about the building, and I introduced her to other people, and she really appreciated that. And she saw this link to nominate a fellow employee excellence, and she nominated me. And then somebody else said, "Oh, congratulations on your nomination." I was like, "What are you talking about?" So, and it turned out that a few people saw that and were like, "Yeah, Cathy helped me out from day one," because there are some areas like throughout our account where they're physically the only person there. They don't have a team of people like within our own team, within our organization, that they can just kind of look over to and say, "Hey, I have this question. How do we do this?" So just being that person to, reach out to somebody and say, "I think I can help you." And, through that, you may gain some partnerships where they say, "Oh, you know what? You helped me out back then," and they're just going to pay it forward. And next time that somebody else comes along, then they're going to do the same thing for somebody else. And, ultimately that just makes our organization, a much stronger team. So that has been one of the things that I've just really tried to stay true to, and try to, as I was, helping other people, just trying to remind them to do the same thing, because it's, you just don't know, again, in
Right.
facilities, like it's a different challenge every day. So you gain some partnerships and maybe some people that can help you across the country.
Right. I love that you helped people, and that is a testament. That's a testament of a sponsorship, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people talk about mentorship, but I say dump mentors. Anyone can call themselves as a mentor, but the the differentiating moment between a mentor and a sponsor is a sponsor helps you navigate through things. And let's not misunderstand sponsorship and navigating through things as spoon feeding. No. Sometimes in new environments, you need to give people resources and tell them this is where the resources are, right?
Mhm.
When you're dropped in the middle of a jungle, or when you're dropped in the middle of the ocean, which is unsettling waters, right? You need to find a sponsor who will say, not sink or swim, but hey, here's a float, hold on to this float, and let's swim together through this
Mhm.
unsettling waters. And that's the difference between a mentor. Mentor can sit here from a lens of, I've done this, or not even I've done this, you need to do this, you need to do that, from a space of gatekeeping as well. But a sponsor allows you to get through not only doors, but break those doors and walls to create a larger space for you to become successful. And that's what we need
Yes.
in building the now of culture, in the now of leading, and in the now of workplace. We have come to the end of the show. Before we leave, Cathy, what one advice would you give to people listening if they are thinking in their environment?
Lean on the people that you can trust, like gain partnerships, and just be trusting and be trustworthy, and just lean on the people that will help you get there, because we can't all do it alone. And while there's going to be a lot of people that don't want to see us succeed, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to also make sure that we're thriving, as long as we know that we can trust each other. So I just say, just trust.
Beautiful. Well, Cathy, thank you for coming on to Hardship Chat.
Thank
Um,
you.
if you want to find Cathy, she is on Twitter. Her Twitter handle is nycathy01. Where else can people find you, Cathy?
I'm also on LinkedIn, and I think those are I'm not too like crazy with the social networks, but yeah, so you can definitely find me on Twitter and on LinkedIn. Happy to reach out and network with anyone that
Yeah.
may be experiencing the same challenges.
And this is what we need to start doing. We need to start creating allies and partnerships and sponsorships through hardship. Right, hardship is leading other people for seeing them as beating hearts from our beating hearts, and it's the now of leading, and just and eliminating the dismissive narratives or future of work, dismissive narratives that eliminate and corrodes diversity, that eliminates and corrodes inclusion, that eliminates and corrodes acceptance and belonging. And I leave all of you with this today. Use the right kind of narrative to enable. Use the right kind of narrative to remove your earplugs and eliminate the narrative that says, I'm here to unmute you. I'm here to empower you. Because people were never muted. People were never lost their power. It's just that those who decided to cancel the noise and decided to shackle someone else, decided to create that environment. We as leaders have got a social responsibility to help each other up. That's how we create a sustainable, evolving culture. Thank you, Cathy, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Again, I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget tomorrow, Rethink Culture at 12 p.m. live. And do not forget to follow Cathy on LinkedIn and Twitter. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good one. Stay safe, all.